Matt, would you like to start on news?
Sure. Where do we want to start?
I don't know. You pick. I don't care.
Start with the prayer thing.
The prayer thing. No, wait a minute. You have don't you have the follow-up to the prayer thing?
I have all kinds of follow-ups to the prayer thing.
Do the prayer thing.
All right. Well, I wrote an article about this as soon as I heard about it. Basically, the Templeton group had put together a $2.4 million study to determine whether or not prayer was effective. They gathered about 1,800 patients who were going to have heart bypass surgery and divided them into three groups. Group 1 were being prayed for and knew they were being prayed for. And Group 2 were being prayed for but only knew that it was possible. And Group 3 were not being prayed for by the selected groups but knew that it could be possible. And what they found was there was absolutely no discernible effect on the recovery.
Other than?
Well...
a little statistical anomaly.
There was one minor little hitch in their get-up, and that was that the people who were being prayed for and knew they were being prayed for, they had a slightly higher rate of complications.
Now, I just love that this was the Templeton Foundation.
Yeah.
Because I hate those pricks. This Mr. Templeton has made it his business to take his money to fund all this stupid-ass research into to try to find, first of all, bad science from the get-go, right? Mm-hmm. You've got a belief, and he's trying to find evidence that the belief is true scientifically. That's what you do in science.
Conclusion.
Yeah, what you do in science is you have an effect that you're trying to explain.
Right.
And that's what you research. You don't start from an assumption that there is an effect. You have an actual effect, and they don't got one. And all that their research is showing is that there isn't an effect for them to do research on.
Well, right, but that's... And to me, the way this study was put together was as good as you could possibly expect from bad science. And it isn't so much that they're setting out to discover the truth.
I wasn't criticizing their
methodology.
Their methodology. I was just saying that is just a stupid-ass way of assigning dollars to research.
Right. But the thing is that they weren't necessarily... They could make the argument that there is a perceived effect, and they wanted to verify if this perceived effect was real.
Fair enough.
And the
study
says...
They did verify whether it was real.
The study says your perceived effect is not real. But they had no explanation for why the people who were being prayed for and knew it suffered more complications. But Tracy, a friend of ours from the ACA, had a theory which I really liked, which was maybe those people were stressed because they knew there was pressure on them to get better for God. And if they died, they would make God look bad.
Well, yes, but... didn't all three groups know it was possible that they might be prayed for? And it's only the ones that were told you're getting prayed for that had the effect?
Yeah. The ones who knew for sure that they were being prayed for.
Now, I imagine the people at the Templeton Foundation were praying that the results would be different. But, sometimes God says no. He answers all your prayers.
No.
And this time it was
sorry, no. That is a Christian-style excuse to just keep believing in this dumbass shit, even after it has been clearly indicated by an actual study that there's nothing there. But then the spin begins.
Oh,
yeah, no, I had concluded that first article by saying, personally, I'm hoping that they simply drop useless studies like this and focus on spending the money to improve the only demonstrably effective treatment for disease, which is medical science and not prayer. But, the spin begins. And it's no surprise. You've got to figure, okay, they've had these kind of studies in the past, and... If they seem to have shown that prayer was effective, the religionists jump all over it and say, we told you, look, prayer is effective. And then when we investigate the studies more, we find out their methodology was flawed or the data was outright faked. And then that kind of disappears into obscurity. But when the study is clear and shows that there is no effect, it's time for the spin to begin. One guy wrote, I believe the test people who were not sick, they had people who were not sick praying for the sick. What was the motivation of those people who were praying? Did they know those who were sick? Was there any relationship at all between those people who were praying in intercession and those for whom the prayer was directed? And essentially, he's saying that if you don't have a personal relationship with somebody, your prayers are meaningless and hollow. So, excuse number one, the people who were doing the praying didn't have any real compassion for the people who were going through the hard fight.
So you can't pray for like world peace, or to feed the starving children.
And I'm sure the same guy.
Interesting.
He was perfectly crazy today. I'm sure the same guy has come out every time there is one of those, those prayer days.
Yeah.
And criticize the people praying because you don't have a personal relationship to the class of people that you're praying for, so why are you wasting your time?
Right. Then he comes up with another excuse, which is the idea of selecting people to pray. The people who were selected to pray might not have been true Christians, might not have known how to pray properly. Just another ad hoc excuse for why this might not have worked.
Right.
But his big one was, I would suggest that it was the many prayers of many true believers that prodded medicine to develop things like the artificial heart transplants, and heart bypass surgery.
So he's just desperate for there to be some real, tangible effect that his religion can take credit for.
Right. When all else fails, respin it so it looks like prayer actually works. Feel free to take credit for scientific progress, because nobody can prove you wrong.
Usurp everything.
What a dumbass.